Good morning. This is Mrs. Tellas. We're going to be going over section 1.2 for Algebra Honors, solving multi-step equations. So if we start by just combining like terms here on the first page, you would just remind yourself we got to combine terms that have a common variable with a common exponent. So 3x and 4x would be combined at 7x. And the constant would be by itself because it doesn't have another constant to combine with. And in the second one, you could combine the constants together and you could combine the x's together. So let's do the x's first. So let's see, -2 plus 3 over 2 is the same as 1.5. So that's -1/2 x. -7 and -2 is -9. So that would be my answer. I can't solve these because there's no equal sign. Okay, so on your homework, you've got a couple of these where you have to determine whether the given number is a solution to the equation. So these are, I think, a little bit hard to read. You could see that the equation is right here, and it's asking you to figure out if 2 is the answer. So you could solve it, okay, but an easier way to do it would be to take the 2 and plug it in for x right here and right here. So 6 times 2 plus 1 equals 7 times 2 minus 1. So you can use your calculator here. That'd be 13. And 14 minus 1 is also 13. So that means that 2 is indeed the solution. So yes, 2 works. Now, if you would have come up with like 10 equals 13, then that would have been a no. No, that doesn't work. Okay, so you have a couple of those in your homework. Okay, and here are the steps for solving multi-step equations. If you want to write these down in your notebook, press pause and write them down. Okay, first you would distribute, then you would combine like terms, then you would move your variable term by adding or subtracting, and then your constant term by adding or subtracting, and then multiply or divide. All right, so let's do a couple here. We'll start with a two-step. So first I'm trying to remember my objective is to get x alone. So I want to move the constant away first. So I'm adding 13 to both sides. Drop down the 2.5x. The 13's cross out, and this is 15. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 2.5. So I'm going to use my calculator. 15 divided by 2.5 is 6. And remember that I can take the 6 and plug it back in for x, and it should make a correct statement, like those questions on the front. It should equal 2. So 2.5 times 6 minus 13 gives me 2, which is the correct answer. So number 2. So number 2 is a little longer. You can see it's got 3 terms, and you can see that there's a 5D and a -3D. Well, I'm going to start with combining like terms because on the left we have to combine like terms before we start moving things around. So 5D and -3D is 2D. And then I'm going to add 13 to both sides. Let's see, that would be 50, and then divide 2, which would make my answer 25. And again, I should be able to take the 25 and put it here and use my calculator, and it should make a true sentence. Okay, let's look at number 4. Number 4 is a distributive property. Problem I could tell because it's got a quantity inside a parenthesis. So I'm going to distribute the -8 to both of the terms inside the parenthesis. So 64 equals -8r minus 16. And then I'm going to add 16 to both sides and divide -8. So r is -10. And I should be able to put -10 here, use my calculator, and it should come up to positive 64. Okay, let's do, this one's just like the first one we did. I've got a fraction here on number 2. Let's try number 2. So I've got minus 11. Remember, I'm trying to isolate c, so I'm going to add 11 to both sides. So when I combine those two, that's -10. equals 1/2 C. And if you remember from section 1.1, when you have a fraction in front of the variable, you multiply by its reciprocal. So that's negative 20 equals C, because the 1/2 and the 2/1 cancel. So the answer is negative 20. All right, let's try this one. This is one of the ones that has all of the steps that you wrote down at the beginning. So first thing I'm going to do is distribute because it's got the parenthesis. So here and here, 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times negative 1x would be negative 2x. And then I just copy the rest of it. Then on the left, notice that there are 3 terms and 2 of them need to be combined. So I need to combine the positive 2 and the positive 3 before I go any further. I don't want to start moving things around until I combine like terms. So 5 minus 2x equals negative 8. Now I'm going to move the 5 to the right side, so I'm going to subtract 5 and then divide negative 2. So the 2 negatives will cancel, and I'm just going to leave this improper. I'd like you to just leave it improper as well. You could make it a decimal, so that would be what, 6.5, but I'd rather you leave it improper. Let's go ahead and do this story problem. So it says, use the table to find the number of miles X you need to bike on Friday so that the mean number of miles biked per day is 5. Okay, so remember when you find the mean, you add them all up for step 1, and then you divide by how many there are for step 2. Okay, so if I knew the number for Friday, I would add them all up and I would divide by 5. Well, I don't know the number, but I can still set this up. So 3.5 is my first one. 5.5 plus 0 plus 5 plus x, all divided by, well, there's 5 days here, and it's supposed to give me a mean or an answer of 5, so I put that on the right side. Okay, so if we use our calculator across the top, 3.5, 5.5, and 5, that's 14. So 14 plus x over 5 equals 5. And then I'll multiply both sides by 5 to get rid of those two. And then I'm going to subtract 14 on both sides. So x looks like it's 11. And I hope that makes sense to you. Just think, if I was going to find the average, I would add them up and divide by how many. I did that. I added them up. I divided by how many, but I already knew what I wanted the answer to be, which is why I multiplied both sides by 5 to get rid of this 5 right here so that it wasn't a fraction anymore. Okay, let's take a look at this one. It says the formula, I've got this formula here, relates to the nozzle pressure in pounds per square inch of a fire hose, and the maximum horizontal distance of the water reaches D in feet. Okay, so distance is D, and N is nozzle pressure. How much pressure, so we don't know the N, that's the question, is needed to reach a fire 50 feet away? So this is D. It's distance. I'm going to put my 50 here, and I'm just going to work it out. I like that there's a fraction here too. So we're going to subtract 26 on both sides, and then multiply by 1/2's reciprocal, and that's going to give us 48. So 48 pounds per square inch of pressure is how much it would be. All right, one more story problem. It says your school's drama club charges $4 per person for admission to a play. The club borrowed $400 to pay for costumes and props. After paying back the loan, the club has a profit of $100. How many people attended the play? Okay, so the club charges $4 a person for admission, and they borrowed $400 to pay for the costumes. After paying back the loan, the club has a profit of $100. So profit is how much money they made off. They made off of it. So let's see. So they borrowed $400, and it's $4 per person, and they made a profit of 100. So let's see how that works out. So if we add 400 and we divide by 4, let's see what that comes out to. Oh, I multiplied instead of divided. That doesn't make it. There we go. It's 125. So in order to make $100 profit, they would have to sell 125 tickets. Okay, you have 96 feet of fencing to enclose a rectangular pen for your dog. So 96 feet. Remember, like fencing would be like perimeter. So this is like the perimeter. To provide sufficient running space for your dog to exercise, the pen should be 3 times as long as it is wide. So the long side is 3 times as long as it is wide. Find the dimensions of the pen. Okay, well, perimeter formula is 2 length, or 2 width plus 2 length. So we can just plug in what we know here. So we don't know actually we do know the perimeter, 96 feet. So 96 equals 2W plus 2 times 3W, because I just took this 3W and plugged it in for the long side. So 96 is 2W plus 6W. So I'm combining like terms and then dividing by 8. So 96 divided by 8 is 12. So let's make sure we answered the question. Find the dimensions. Well, we did find this one, but now we need this one. So 3 times 12, this side is 36. So my answer would be 12 by 36 or 36 by 12. Same thing. Okay, all done. You're going to go back to Canvas and then click on Big Ideas, and you're going to do your assignment.